All right, 5 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Routine business announcement of the Open Meetings Act is posted back there on the northwest corner. If anybody wants to review or ask questions about anything. Let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Skylar.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb. Here.
Rise and do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any item listed on this agenda will be open for discussion, consideration, and/or action by the Angel City Council. Consent agenda, all items approved with the passage of one motion. Approved minutes from the October 9th, 2019 regular meeting. Approval of claims, treasurer's report, and department head reports. Any item listed on the consent agenda made by request of any single council member be considered as a separate item under the regular agenda section of the agenda.
Yeah,
Council questions,
on
comments?
those October 9, 19 minutes, we can talk about that separately.
Okay. Anyone else? You want to make a motion to approve everything besides the October 9th minutes?
I talked a couple times about the claims.
Anyone in the council? Anyone else?
I make a motion to approve the rest of it.
Second?
First by Brad, to approve treasurer's report, department head reports, second by Greg. Roll call.
Greg.
Aye.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb. Skylar.
Aye.
Just want to work out on this one. Greg, you want to talk first?
Yeah.
And then go Brad.
Back to the minutes of the October 9th meeting. I believe we had a date for completion on the underground sprinkler system. I didn't see that in the minutes.
For Morrison you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
We approved that. I think we had a deadline. I know it was, I was thinking mid-May. And so like I said, I'd like the minutes to reflect, you know, that project was going on or before May 15th, please.
No later than 15, correct?
That's what,
No later.
correct, on or before.
We will put in that amendment as a stick if that's what we do. What was that one? May 2020. If that's.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have question, comments about that? Minutes? Motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. It's first by Skylar, second.
Second.
Second by Greg. Roll call.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb. Yes. Skylar.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Brad.
Just a quick couple inquiries. I see we have two $20,000 payments to local law enforcement, interlocal agreement for law enforcement, for ended up being $40,000. So why is there
Yeah.
two?
It's kind of confusing, so when we run this list for the council meeting for you guys, it's gonna show you the vendor totals, and then you'll notice over here, some of them have check numbers and dates, and some of them don't. Okay, so the check numbers and the check dates are checks that have already been issued, so this council has discussed before in the past, because we have bills coming in at different times all month, rather than pay bills late, we run 2 batches of claims every month. So we run all the bills up until the council meeting, go on as a scheduled payment, so we don't pay those until the day
I talked to you about the other.
Yeah, so that everything's
Same thing.
paid on time in the month. So the ones that have checks for the check date, those are actually October bills that you are now approving in November because we did not have them at the October council meeting.
So our portion must be $40,000 per month for.
20,000 per month. So we paid 20,000 for October, the last week of
Okay.
October,
All right.
and we're paying 20,000 now for November.
All right.
Which will be paid at the end of the month.
Well, it'll be paid tomorrow. 20,000 will be paid.
The November one too?
And the other quick deal, and this, probably you might have told me about this before, but I can clarify. Farmer Directors Co-op, it says $7,406 for pumps for fuel. Is that just, when I see pumps for fuel, I just didn't.
Sure, so at the street department, we have the bulk fuel tanks that all of the, and, all the vehicles essentially fill there. So we get bulk fuel delivered there. The fuel gauges, we have logs, so we know how to distribute the fuel to the different funds, the different departments, and so we calculate that. The fuel logs are, the gauge, right,
Yeah.
is like not reading correctly. So
They're just
that's an
wore out.
issue when we're trying to calculate gallons pumped per.
So the pumps themselves were that high?
Yeah.
Really, that, this kind of, with the red flag to me, was just being a pump, being that high.
So we were, essentially, was it 2 or 3? I don't remember offhand. 3.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, they are expensive, and that's
Okay.
kind of why we
When it
haven't
said pumps,
hadn't
I go,
necessarily
"Oh,
done it until it needed to be done.
Part of that was fuel too, it's just the way our computer lists.
Listen, so just, it's a combination of pump, equipment and fuel.
Yeah, it's just the way our software.
But I do
takes
feel
the
like
first line.
the pumps themselves, I feel like we're about 4,000.
Yeah, 4,200, and then the remaining balance was a loadable fuel.
Okay, all right. So just the way it's listed in there, it's kind of.
Yeah, our
That's all I
software
have.
doesn't give us a lot of room on that reference line, we only have so many characters.
And maybe see, the sooner I can come and ask you ahead of time or something like that. Yeah, okay. That's all I have on that.
Anyone else on claims? Take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve claims.
First by Brad, second.
Second.
Skylar, roll call.
You guys are faster than today. Deb? Skylar?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Brad?
Your face.
There is no mayor's report or appointment at this time. Public hearings, item A, application of 1700 Ventures LLC, DA, the 402 bar, to be located at 339 North Main Street for a Class 1 liquor license. Open the hearing now at 5:08, sorry.
Well, that's us. If you've got any questions for us, basically Stephanie and I purchased the Silver Lining building. We're gonna turn it into like a little sports bar. We've got going gangbusters. We've got things rolling. So the one thing I did want to touch on that we kind of, with our application of the Liquor Control Commission that you're looking at here, we had a bit of a question on our distance in relation to the United Methodist Church. So on a liquor license application, it has something where you check whether or not you're within 150 feet of an existing church. And, it was a little bit gray as far as how you measure that distance. The question became, if you're familiar with those buildings, so if you're looking on Main Street, our building, of course, the main entrance faces out onto Main. The back door of the building is, that building's smaller than the two on either side of it. It would be John's building, the Castle Executive Offices to the north, and the Home Health building to the south. Those both extend quite a ways out from the back of our building. So the issue was there was no direct line of sight from basically the southwest corner of our building to the northeast corner of the United Methodist Church. So with the Home Health building in the way the application says, you're supposed to measure a straight line distance between the two building edges, not the property lines. If it was property lines, it's literally right across the alley is the northern property line of the Methodist Church. We've been in touch with all the church folks, but until, in fact, today, we didn't have an actual determination on how to measure that distance. The state patrol personnel out of North Platte that is now, which I didn't know, in charge of Brown and Cherry counties. I thought we were based out of the North Fork office, but it's, you know, we're down in North Platte now. He came up, met with us today, and he measured it line of sight at 171 feet. So that was the one thing like I said, we had been in touch with the church, board members and the pastor, and it just kind of kept them in the loop with what we were doing. Said we'd wait until we got a determination on the distance before we decided whether, you know, before we knew whether we'd need to ask the church for a letter stating they didn't object. So they've been involved in the process. They obviously, you know, if they didn't have to do anything, that was their preference. So when he came back today and said 171 feet was what he was writing on the application for his measurement, that was the one thing that we were kind of waiting on that was still maybe a little bit of a question mark. So now that we have that and we're outside 150 feet, we don't have to involve the church. Although, like I said, we have anyway, just to be neighborly. So with that, basically what we're asking for is is for the council to support the application. And if we keep moving, we're hoping potentially for an opening in December at some point when we get the final go-ahead from the commission. So, like I said, I was glad that the patrol personnel was able to make it today, because that was, like I said, the one thing I wasn't going to have an answer for you on was that actual distance measurement. You know, it's kind of where they talked about a straight line. It was hard for us to figure how you could do a straight line through an existing building.
So he did a straight line through?
He did a straight line. He basically did a straight line from the first spot where he could see from the back of our building. The first spot where he could see the church is where he took his measurement. So instead of trying to figure out some way to go through the home health building, he basically said what his figures are that he uses is he goes from the first spot where he can physically get that line of sight distance, and that's how he took his measurements. So, like I said, we've made the church aware of that today as well, a couple of board members and the pastors. So that's where we are. If you guys have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them. So it's on sale only. We're not doing an application that has off sale, so won't carry anything. We won't carry anything out. It'll all be on premises. So. Operation hours will be planning to open at 4 in the afternoon until close, which could vary based on if we've got patronage. But obviously the 1 o'clock cutoff, and then closed on Sundays will be our plan. So that's where we are. I'm happy to answer any questions if you've got them.
No questions? All right. All good. Let's move on to some old business. We have none. So for the regular agenda, presentation by J&J Sanitation.
We've been working on this a couple months. First, I want to introduce myself. I'm Terry Flick. I'm the district manager for J&J. We're owned by Waste Connections. I travel from everywhere from Creighton or over to here, from I-90 to 20 miles north of Grand Island. That's my area. Take care of it. We got about 31 municipality contracts in those areas. We've been working with Lisa on this stuff, trying to see what we can do to try to help you out on your trash. We've come up with a couple things. We've had 5 guys working on this for 7 days trying to figure out. The biggest problem that we're seeing is trying to get your tonnage for disposal correct. You guys are paying right now $72 a ton to unload those trucks for shipment fees. My charge in O'Neill is $61 a ton. There's quite a bit of a gap there.
What'd you say, 62?
61. And 72 for you guys here. What we did is we come up and talking with her on the phone. We've had a couple conversations with her. She's actually been through 2 or 3 controllers with me that are trying to move things around. So it's been kind of hard to get this kind of under control. I worked with my boss and 2 other controllers with today, and 1 head controller for the whole region, which covers everything from New Mexico to the Canada line. If you guys want us just to pick up the trash, it would be $11 a household. That includes a cart, 96-gallon poly cart. And I'll explain 2 reasons why we do that, okay? Your commercial fee of $27 would stay the same, you can do that, and your heavy commercial would go to $54. If you want us to incorporate your tipping fees, now here's where it happens, where you'll see the big difference. Per household with the carts, $21.84 to pay for your guys' $72 a ton to get rid of it. It jumps drastically.
21 and
$21.84.
2184,
That's a
what the tipping
96-gallon
fee-
total.
Okay.
Your light commercial would go to $35, and your heavy commercial would go to $75 from $54. Now, there's a big difference in that. Residential trash is always gonna be lighter than commercial trash. Just like these people here at bottom want to open up liquor stand. You get a container full of beer bottles, that thing's heavy. So it's about $80 or about 90 pounds per yard. A 96-gallon tote, 2 of those makes a yard. Okay, takes 4 of those to make a 2-yard container. So if you got your containers, 2 yards, the average weight of one of those, not full of beer bottles, just an average weight of normal trash of commercials, 130 pounds per yard. So that's probably 260 pounds every time you lift it up if it's one full. It's a lot of trash in there. The reason why we go with a poly cart, 1, it makes it easier for my guys. It takes the risk out of shoulder injuries, back injuries, all that kind of stuff. You guys know all about that being a city board. I know you do. But it also does one other thing. You can put 8 13-gallon bags of trash in that 96-gallon tote. If you don't run that, that's how we bid it. We're figuring the weight of that container to put onto our truck. Or you guys could do that too. What it does is you get a, unfortunately you're always going to have somebody who's going to fill that cart and put 10 bags around it. Well, now you've got basically 2 carts full. It ups your trash, which ups your tonnage at the landfill, okay? So in order to control that, we bid it as what's in that cart. If there's a bag or 2, we pick it up. But when you start getting 4, 5, 6 bags, and your neighbor gets 4, 5, 6 bags, and that neighbor gets 4, 5, 6 bags, your tonnage on that truck goes huge. It's really big, so we start charging extra for that, about $12 to $15 a yard, depending on how much is out there. The new truck figures for a brand new truck that we run, which is a tandem axle truck with a 3rd axle, is $247,000 for a brand new truck. You guys are basically making $3.52 per household off of your tipping fee, over top of what you didn't pay. You know, the rest is all your tipping fee. We can't come close to that, even collecting for your tipping fees, because it costs $85 an hour to run one of those trucks around town, even though it doesn't get over town. Now, if I have to run my truck, I can do it cheaper per ton, but it's 2.5 hours worth of drive time for my truck to come back and forth. So now you're gonna go up, okay? If you elect not to have a cart, we could probably go down to $10 a cart. But it's, then we just, it takes a risk in what we call an I rate, which is an incident rate that we have to budget every year. About 8 out of 30 guys is gonna get hurt, and we got a budget for that. And then we also run a bonus program to our guys of $2,400 a year. If you're safe and you don't have any accidents, they get so much of that quarterly. Keeps our I rate down, makes everything safety, so they don't. Here's the kicker why they get really safe on doing that kind of stuff is, if you're running a truck for me, you got a bank of $2,400 a year. You have an incident and it costs $3,000. You lose all your money. Now you've got to go to everybody else and explain to them why you're borrowing their money to pay for the incident out of their budget or out of their bonus check. So that's how we do that to try to keep people safe. With a poly cart, you wheel it to the back, it hooks on the back of the truck, you pull whatever it dumps. if you're using dumpsters and stuff like that, you're throwing stuff, you take big, huge risk of getting shoulders, surgeries for shoulders, and those ain't cheap. Back operations, things like that. I don't have a good answer for you, what we can do, but your tipping fees is what the biggest problem, you're really high on tipping fees. And it may be just where you're at. I don't know what your disposal rate is in Lexington. It might be what we just pay to dispose of it, but it's your trucking fee to get it from here to there. It's probably a high rate. Does that make any sense to everybody? I mean, we'd love to have you. I am not kidding you. I would love to come over here and put a truck in this town. I'd hire another driver, put him in here. That truck would be here all the time. And what we have up by Long Pine and all that would just give him another day to run that truck over here. And we'd put a whole nother guy on over here. We'd hire somebody from the city, if that's what you wanted, to give you that option first to put into my truck. But he's got to make our criteria to come to work. So I don't know what else you want to know, other than, tipping fees are just are bad. And a lot of that is the EPAs are so involved in these landfills, in these studies, that it costs a lot of money to keep those landfills going. We own the landfill that we dump at. It's down in David City. So I got a transfer station in O'Neill, I got a transfer station in Oak. So
Would you use our transportation here?
that's what I'm understanding, is that what you would like, yes. I mean, we're willing to do it. Poly cards, that includes it. You don't pay for any. So if you've got a poly card and that lid breaks on it, I come change it for free. There's no extra charge for that.
Are you gonna do the alley pickup or street pickup?
Street pickup if possible. I have alleyways, if they're not completely wide and maintained, I have rebuilt 5 suspensions since I've been here. My mechanic has since the 1st of May, because of these roads and stuff, they're so rough. I mean, they just tear those suspensions out. So we would want everything curbside as much as possible. And this price also includes us buying all your containers, all your metal containers. Yeah.
The old map?
Yeah, that would be in the price.
Yeah, we calculated kind of a price based off of depreciation and whatnot on our, we calculated about 124 dumpsters. Some
Correct.
New, some old, and so we put a depreciation calculation on those and kind of came up with around $18,000
A little over 18,000.
to buy out our dumpsters from us, so
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have that asset.
And we would just take them and all your new ones, we take the new ones back, paint them, put J&J on them, and start switching them out slowly. That's all included in pricing and everything. We just bought 2 new trucks this year. I don't get a new one next year, unfortunately, but I got 17 trucks on the road all the time.
Now, what would it cost like a commercial business that would have, that owns 2 dumpsters? You have 2 pickups of that one
That's
size.
what you created in the heavy dumpster, or in the heavy commercial. That would be your 54 or 75. Okay, 54, if you guys figure out how to pay that tipping fee, 54, if we incorporate it, you guys would do the collecting anyway, but to make your tipping fee work, we have to go 75. What we need out of it is 54 for 2 of those. If you had 2.
Not a piece, just for the combination.
Yeah, just the combination. That's what you considered heavy commercial, correct?
Right, so.
It could be 2 or 3 times a week too, we figured that. It could be 1 dumpster 2 or 3 times a week. So,
What I had asked Terry to do was to come up with a proposal, basically, based off of our current ordinance, our current rate, how we are currently billing residents, and to pitch it both ways. One as, what's their cost to do it? And the second way as in, what's their cost, including the city's cost under our obligation to the interlocal for the tipping at the transfer station. So that's where he's getting a higher number.
Right.
Because if the city, under any arrangement, the city would continue to bill this service, whether we do it or J&J does it. And we would, pay J&J, but we'd have to collect our tipping on top, so that would get billed on top of J&J's charge.
Right.
So that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, so if you guys elected not to go with a poly card, it would go to $20.84, but I prefer that you went for my guy's safety and the respect for my guy to make it easier for him, you know. We would wanted it just to get a poly card to everybody.
So from your actual truck, you would dump at the current transfer station?
Correct, at that 21.84, 35, and 75. That would be dumping, that way, that would be what you need to put on the bill to each individual person.
Cover all the payment to the
Yeah,
local.
and then you just take your tipping fee out of it and pay us our fee. Because that's the way you wanted it that way too, correct? So,
Yeah, I wanted to see it both ways, because I was curious.
because you know, you figure I can put 10 ton on my truck legally, because I got enough axles to do it, and I understand you can't,
Correct.
right?
Not legally.
And DOT's picking on you. I'm sorry, my brother's the state patrolman over here in Sharon, so I can say all I want about it. Anyway, but anyway, we license our truck at 54,000. The 10 ton puts me about 52,000. What that does is, when it's 10 ton on that truck, it's full. But I can't ever get an overweight ticket. I can get an over axle ticket, but I can't get an overweight ticket. Makes it cheaper, just so you know. That's how you can get around a little bit of that. So, but that truck that we just bought, 3 axles on the back, 1 steer axle, it's $247,000.
For you guys, what do we currently charge residents and businesses?
So we have 3 categories by ordinance. Residential is $14.30 per household. Light commercial, which is, I don't remember how many 30-gallon bags.
Didn't you say 11?
Maybe.
I think you said 11 that day.
$27.30 is that rate. And then heavy commercial would be $54.60 as a base rate. And pretty much everybody on that base rate is gonna have dumpsters, so then you're gonna pay the $13 a month dumpster rental fee on top of that.
So $8 higher.
Yeah. Basically. It's up to you if you guys want to move forward with this. I mean, I'd love to have you. I'd be over here in a second. We'd love to expand. We really would.
And Terry, can you clarify too, did you, in these numbers, did you include J&J paying rent to the city for
Yes,
storage?
the
of truck?
4,000 we talked about, correct. That's in there.
So just for the council, you know, how we do fund accounting here at the city, so when the garbage truck parks at the street shop, the garbage fund pays the street fund $4,000 in rent to store that piece of equipment on their behalf, so Terry figured that same rent for their truck, into this cost.
So in essence, what you're charging overall is fairly similar to what they would be charging just for the pickup portion.
Correct.
And I have to apologize. We thought we could be a little more prepared for this one. We don't want to stick anything in a number because we got to get it approved. So we thought we'd just come talk to you. I just took over Spencer too, so I'm trying to get Spencer lined out. So I've been in about 5 different meetings. I got so many numbers running through my head. I got to stop and think a little bit, so. Anybody got any questions? I guess our big thing is, do you want us to try to keep going with this?
Well, for the city council, remember when we did budgeting, because KBR Solid Waste Board raised the interlocal payment, we discussed at the budgeting that we will be pushing it to be in the black at the end of the year because of that increase for the garbage fund. And so it was budgeted, if we keep garbage service as it is, that we would have to look at increasing garbage rates by at least 10% just to stay in the black. So that's not considering budgeting for a new truck. Right now, we're netting, what is it, about $18,000 a year with the current rate. With the increase to the solid waste payment, I think that was about a $4,000 $15,000 increase, so, our net is pushing it when you figure payroll expense increase and various other things of that nature, so, you're kind of taking away your cushion to put away for capital improvement on the truck.
What's the term of that, something?
They review it annually. I can't recall the last time the solid waste board raised fees. I think this is the first time it's been raised since I've been here. And a lot of that had to do because KBR Solid Waste pretty well relies on the interlocal payments to operate, because that covers all the tipping costs to charge to Lexington and Emmett. But also, the recycling market has taken a sort of nosedive. So, they supplemented their income with sales of recyclables. And so, right now, they're sitting on bales and bales and bales of recyclables that they cannot sell.
Does everybody understand what happened with recycling? Everybody understands the China market and what's going on? Okay, you remember about, was it 5 years ago when the barrel of oil was $85 a barrel? The Afghanistan came in and said, hey, wait a minute, we don't need $85 a barrel to live on. So we're gonna charge 25, we're gonna corner the market. Anything that's made in this country comes from oil. It's gotta have some type of oil used to make it. So it dropped. That's what started it. Then China came over here about 3 years ago. And they said, the United States does not know how to recycle. We don't. And I'm partially to blame, probably more to blame than anybody in this room. We don't train our people how to recycle. So people think everything's recyclable. It's not. There's a certain amount of plastics with a number on them that does, there's other things. So China comes and says, okay, wait a minute. You guys don't know how to recycle. You're sending me dirty bales on a ship, and we're taking them off on our dock, and we're finding out that bales are dirty. You're asking us to put your trash, American trash, in our landfill. Ain't happening no more. We're coming to the United States with our guys. We're gonna inspect your bale on your dock. Now you figure out what you're gonna do with it. That started the price of recycling is going to go. Now China has tired of dealt with it. They've shut off recycling. So any type of recycling that's going on around here, we got to figure out how to produce, fix it ourselves. So they're done. So that's why we went from $30 a ton to unload a semi-truck in the 1st of June to the 1st of September. It now costs me $130 a ton to unload that truck. City of Ord went from $6.12 to $15.08 per household to keep recycling. Unfortunately, that's the exact short version of what happened. So.
Yeah, so anyways, back to the solid waste, and pretty well relying on interlocal now to subsidize that. Lexington, because of the disaster in Nebraska, flooding, we can't get our trucks in Lexington, so we have been having to go to Eldon. So, trucking is higher, cost is higher. I know that the board did talk to Cherokee County and Valentine, tried to work with them to reduce costs. Valentine was gonna have to add an expansion bay, and I don't quote me on this, I guess the solid waste board would have that in their minutes, but it just wasn't really feasible for what the negotiations had been at that time, so that's kind of the situation that we're in.
I guess this is probably out in the weeds a little bit, but you guys use O'Neill, that's your site, for as far as or is that just a transfer stick?
The front office is mine. This is where all the trucks
Where
are.
does the actual trash itself go that you?
From O'Neill, it gets put onto a semi-trailer, then it goes to Butler County, down at David City.
Oh,
Where, because they have C&D sites, right?
Yes.
my question was going to be is, our transfer station is typically closed now Tuesday, Thursdays, as opposed to having to transfer to O'Neill that way. Would there be a way to utilize a truck, utilize the KBR solid waste site, have that truck then go to O'Neill as opposed to you having to run your actual? I don't know.
The thing about O'Neill, the city owns the transfer station in O'Neill, okay?
Right.
Those are our trailers. Those are Kelly's that owns the landfill. Those are Kelly's trailers. We back in there with our truck, just like we do with yours. We push the trash out. We pay the city a fee to load that onto our trailer, and then that trailer goes to our landfill, to David City.
Would that be a possibility to use our stations?
We would have to clear that through the city because we use them as a middle person right there. I do own the transfer station in Ord. Now, that's a different story. Ord might be something we could work out to where,
I'm just talking about being able to use a trailer, you know, being
right,
able to.
because I'm sure you're
fill a
using
trailer
28, 50
here.
foot trailers to haul that
Yeah,
trash out of here.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is if you're gonna look at the option of the reduced tipping fees, which you said are $11 cheaper than what we're paying, it's,
Pretty close, $10.84.
if you
Yeah.
could use our facility to where you're running your truck out there, it gets loaded from our facility into a trailer, and then you potentially utilize that lower tipping fee, that probably pays for your cost of the extra, you know. I just, like I said,
The
that's
bad
a lot,
thing
there's
is-
a lot of moving parts to something like that, I don't know.
If we come over here 3 times a week, that truck's gonna cost me $180 to run that truck over here and back. Truck durables is what you're talking, that's your,
Yeah.
you know, $85 is gonna pay my wage for the guy, it's gonna pay for the truck, it's gonna pay for the fuel, what we're planning on breaking down, because unfortunately, all these new trucks break down, doesn't make a difference.
And I don't know how much you haul in one of those trailers.
And one of those trailers probably get, well, they're probably putting about 50 ton on
So 50 ton times 11, you know, 10 plus bucks a ton, you're potentially looking at that, you know, that
Right.
maybe go with a cheaper tipping fee.
there. Right.
What you know, if you're saving 10 to 11 bucks on a tipping fee by loading a truck here but sending it to David City.
Well, you probably won't
No,
spend
no,
say
no.
11. You might say 4 out of that 11 because you're gonna pay 8 for a tipping, or whatever it might be, I didn't figure.
I just, that's, with that decent amount of difference between the two, I didn't know how much you could haul on one truck, but it might be, even with the extra miles, the extra wages, those types of things, it might be where we have the loading station. If you could, you know, if you could work that into where we're not having to send it to Lexington at that higher cost, potentially you could work that out. Now, you're gonna have to obviously separate it potentially from whatever people it wouldn't be open to people in the county just to be able to go out like they do now, and if the garbage truck's running, you just throw yours right in with the garbage truck, but, you know, that's, like I said, there might be too many moving parts to make that feasible.
It might
When
be.
you look at that much difference in the tipping fees, it might be, if you can fit that much on a truck, it might still make sense to. If
We
you
can
can get
put-
the truck and trailer here and load your dump truck,
Right.
you know, unload your garbage truck just here, it might be, you know, that might be a way to
That
make
might be
it a
something we can
little
look
bit more
into.
Maybe
palatable,
he
I
wants,
don't know.
maybe he wants to own another facility.
You know, and that's something we'd be willing to look into that too.
That'd
I mean,
be
it's something we can look
KBR
into.
board. I don't know why they would not.
I think we at least entertain it and look
Well,
at
well,
that.
yeah, if the difference is that much, if you're $10, $11 difference between the two, you can pay for some mileage and a driver and still be
And
ahead.
I mean, and I'd have to bring John Love, which is my boss here, to kind of go through that, because when it comes to those kind of purchases, it's a little bit of a, so. But I mean, we've done it before. We just bought 7 new sites, 5 in Iowa and 2 in Omaha, and 2 of those are transfer stations. So I know we'll buy them. So if that's something you want to entertain, we can sure look into it. I don't think you're gonna get 30 days to make a decision on this one. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this thing. But I guess our biggest thing is, do you want us to keep going? I'm willing to keep going. I'd love to have your business here. I'd love to have it.
Lisa, how old is our truck and the condition of it?
Kevin?
It's, I think it's a 2011, 12, somewhere, and it's starting to nickel minus to death, so something else to think about.
2 years ago, we pumped about $9,000 into it, replaced about every replacement.
It's getting to the place where there's something wrong with it. I mean, we can fix the smaller stuff, but there's a lot of stuff we gotta take a look at.
Now, 2011, that's front chassis and
That's
the whole thing was new then.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't believe the truck's legal going down the road.
No, it's.
I've
I've
heard that.
It's actually, it's too heavy.
It's overweight empty,
Yeah.
so.
So we used to have a lot of trouble with DOT, had to have special permits.
Well, where the city's the main component of the KBR transfer station, you got Johnstown, Long Pine, and Count. I mean, to me, that's not necessarily a difficult sell to KVR board if you guys decide that's an avenue you want to go. I'm just looking at, if you can save that much on
You
the
bet.
tipping fees, it may be worth it to pursue along those lines.
Well, it might be $61 a ton for us to get rid of it there. It might be 65 for you.
Well, yeah, right.
You know, it's gonna go up just a little bit.
Sure.
Is it, now, do you guys do anything with grass clipping or something that's totally separate?
Okay, I am very, very willing to do a grass cart route, but you're gonna have to provide me a place to dump that. Okay? We've run into
This
this,
is separate, and that
Right.
was totally separate.
totally
We
separate.
don't have that now.
No, we don't have that now.
But I gotta have a place to dump
We've got
it.
spots to
There's
dump.
communities that do have that.
Well, we just have a spot to dump.
You guys will not want to pay the tonnage on a grass cart for me to take it to a landfill.
It's tough enough to get people to put their trash out, let alone.
Yeah. You're looking at $45 for poly cart, or 45 pounds for a poly cart that's 96. A full grass cart at 96 is probably 110 pounds. So your tonnage, if I take it to the landfills,
It's a question.
but I mean, I'm willing to do it. We sure can do it. We can take one day and just do it, but I gotta have a place to dump it. Okay?
And for discovery purposes, I mean, I guess, from a treasury perspective, you know, we probably wouldn't buy a $247,000 truck. We would probably look at the nice used model for more like 180, 160. It's still a huge capital improvement investment where we don't have a senior. So,
Right, I'm just giving you a price of
well,
what we pay
just
for
for
it right
the
now.
council though, I mean, if the city keeps garbage service as it is, I mean, we are gonna have to look at a capital expenditure, which means we will be having to raise rates.
Just buy it, use it.
I think if we could just continue with more information here that, especially if we're interested in buying the.
Is that what you want? You want me to check in the interest of buying the transfer station? Is that what you're wanting?
Council, yes.
I mean, it'd be nice to know the numbers anyway.
Yeah.
That's good information. Useful.
Well, and I think too, Terry, maybe that gives us another opportunity, you and I, you know, for me to hammer out those numbers too for capital improvement cost. So that I can put a figure on that to the council so that they have a good comparable.
Okay, well, right now, I will tell you that those rates of 11 and 21.84 is what we're offering you right now, if you want us to dump in this transportation. Those two sets of rates are good, okay? We just need to put it on paper and get it approved through the region before we can bring it to you on a definite contract, okay? So, I just wanted to let you know that. I mean, trash is an expensive business. People don't realize how much it costs to get rid of trash, but it sure does.
Not only trash too, but I guess from the city's perspective, and I'm sure you can concur, because that's your business. All of our workers' comp claims in the 4 years that I've been here, aside from one, have been as a result of the garbage truck.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just a very high injury, high risk.
90%, excuse me, Lisa, I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't mean to
you're
catch on. 90% of accidents, I train all drivers. I'm a certified Smith Systems coach, so you got to set about 4 hours of classroom with me when we hire somebody, and then we take you out. It isn't to teach you how to drive, it's to make you change some of your habits of driving, okay? But 90% of all trash trucks accidents are backing. Why? No spotter. There you go.
Even if you have a backup camera, which our truck.
And probably out of 90% of them, probably 60% are front load trucks. Because the front load driver never gets out. He drives in and he stabs the can, he backs out just a little bit, he dumps it, he drives back in, sets it down, and he starts backing. And he's got to back a long way. So we teach our drivers to back with a rear load truck when you get to the spot. Because then that way you can just drive straight out. Because you're more focused on that stop when you're backing to it than you're thinking about the next stop when you're done. I mean, it's human nature. So when he gets in that truck, he goes straight out. So we push the backing when you get to the stop. So
One of the reasons why we have such a high injury rate at the city level in garbage truck is because we don't have the carts. And we do, you know, so
And carts, people say, well, I don't need a cart, I only got 1 or 2 bags. Okay, then let's get you a small cart that's a little bit cheaper rate. It might be $9 for a senior cart, you know, which holds 5 bags or something, you know.
The carts are a lot less work.
But yeah, they are, and they don't understand how much that lowers an I rate, an incident rate, even for you,
Yeah.
you know. So you figure, if you went and bought a bunch of totes, and you spent $30,000 buying everybody a tote in this town, but you have one guy get injured, and he had to go in and have back surgery, how much did that $30,000 save you? You know, if you didn't have them. You're gonna pay that $30,000. Because I've had 4 back surgeries and just laminectomies, and each one of them was $18,500 a piece. And those are just cheap, quick surgeries, they're nothing major, so.
When's the KBR board next meeting?
Actually, I believe it's next Monday, correct?
Might be worth at least just.
Would you like me to come for that?
Topic.
Are you available?
Yeah, I'll make myself available, don't worry about it.
Okay.
I'll be here. It's here.
It's in this very room, actually. It'd be Monday night at 6 o'clock.
Okay. I sure can.
I think that would be good.
I mean, I'd love to, like I said, I'd love to have you guys' business. I'd love to be here. It's not only that, we give you somebody here in town a job too, if possible. You know, we do have a part-timer that if he ran into needing help or something like that, you know, we could always bring him over and help get some trash. The nice thing about us is where you guys got 1 truck that goes down, I got 3 more sitting over there. I can get another truck over here.
And you said too, you probably, Rob, this was just like preliminary talking, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you might run 4 days instead of 3.
Right, because we'd only run 1 person instead of 2 helpers. So it might take a little bit longer, so we would just make a 8, 10 hour or 9 hour day out of it. You know, trash, whatever time, we could start picking up whatever your statutes say. You know, if you don't want a trash truck on the ground until 7 o'clock at the first house, that's what we'll do. You know, so whatever what we're time limit on that. And then we just run till 4 and just make it 4 days a week. And then everything I do have out in the county over here that Dan does for me that drives clear from O'Neill now, I make a 5th route for him so he'd have a 5-day week. And we don't work Saturdays, Sundays, just so you know. Holidays, the guys hate holidays. I will tell you that right now. The only 2 that I will not let them work, and they would work it if I would say yeah, is Christmas and Thanksgiving. Those people need to be with their families on those 2 days. The rest of them, they all work because they don't like having to work Saturday to make up for Friday. So they want 2 days off the road, so they just keep working.
Well, it'd probably be a case, and I mean, if it goes forward, you'd be looking at adding Long Pine residential, Johnson, you know.
It could
Long-
become
Long
a
Pine
lot
picks
of
one
trash.
up. Long Pine does pick up, does Johnstown, do we?
Johnstown does their own.
But what I'm saying is if you do something like this, it potentially be a chance for them as well to, but, you know.
Right.
Like I said, maybe it doesn't work, but it might be worth at least
Johnstown
looking.
runs their own route.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, it's not Stewart, who does it?
Yeah.
Stewart runs their own. But there's another one, I can't remember who it is, they just got a trash truck parked in town and everybody goes down there and throws it in the truck. You know,
Oh, somebody goes down.
which makes it bad, because if you got something that one Amper won't take, now what do you do with it? You know, propane tank, tires.
Just keep pressing on. All right, Terry, well, I think, yeah, if you want to keep pressing on.
You bet, I'm more than willing to work with you as much as we can.
Get some more things firmed up and
Okay.
have council look at it some more.
Okay, I'm not gonna have a lot in writing, I'm gonna come with those figures, okay? I have to get John and Trevor and them involved on the transfer station pretty heavy, so.
All right.
Got any other questions for me? Did I cover enough for you?
Council? Nothing?
I just think it's good to go forward.
Okay,
Thank you.
you betcha.
Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
You too. All right. Item B, consider an administrative subdivision of the following described real estate, Township 30 North, Range 22, west of the 6th PM, in Brown County, Nebraska. Todd, you want to say anything. Nothing?
I believe I've provided everything.
Okay, I just didn't know if you had anything.
Here, Phil.
Yeah, Phil, questions?
So, I guess council in front of you, this is an administrative subdivision of a lot that would be actually outside the city's jurisdiction, but within the 1 mile extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction of the city. This is basically a division of one parcel into essentially three and a half maybe parcels. Todd can eloquate that better than I can. Does anybody have any questions about this? I think Todd provided a copy of a map that would basically roughly show what the division will look like. Upon council approval, should you decide to do so, this would be filed with the clerk of Brown County Register of Deeds.
Just ballpark, it's south of South Street, west
Correct.
of 7, that's.
Is there a more complete description than this one? Oh, yeah.
Any questions from council? Comments? Concerns? Anybody want to make a motion? Vote on this?
Yeah, we would need a motion to approve it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the subdivision of the following district real estate township, 30 North, Route 22 West, 6 p.m. in Brown County, Nebraska, as provided.
Second by Deb. Roll call?
Skylar?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Deb?
Roll pass.
John?
Thank you. Item C, consider resolution number 19-11, resolution for participating members of LARM to ratify the elections of members of the LARM Board of Directors.
Okay, so this is, as everyone hopefully knows, LARM is our liability, workers' comp, insurance provider. I explained last meeting that, and a couple of meetings prior, that there had been ongoing litigation between LARM and the League of Citizens of Nebraska, League of Municipalities, and that litigation had come to an end with basically the duly elected board prevailing in that litigation against the alarm appointed board, and so those appointed members were removed from their offices and the elected officials were declared the governing body for LARM. Subsequently, LARM has reached out to its member pool asking for members to ratify this resolution of their board of directors election that occurred. Well, this last one, I believe, was in September. I am the city's appointed delegate, voting delegate for LARM. I was not able to attend this meeting in September, so I did not cast a vote on behalf of the city of Waynesville on this election. However, I do believe all of these members are incumbents, and so I did vote in the last meeting to elect these individuals. I do understand now that the prior executive director for LARM, who has been removed, is now filing lawsuit against LARM for alleging that the LARM board is not properly constituted or something to that effect, and I believe that is why LARM is asking its member pool to ratify the elections that have been held. I guess my recommendation to the city council as the appointed voting delegate would be to go ahead and adopt the resolution. As we know that there has been court decision upholding the election of those board members. So this seems to me, I guess in my
Questions, comments, council?
I think what has happened here, and I'm reading between the lines, but it appears as though these people were elected in 2018 and earlier in 2019. And they were elected by the designated representative from each of the participating cities. And now what they want is that they want the city itself to ratify and approve the board that has already been done by these representatives. I assume it has something to do with the lawsuit, because what they're probably saying is that the board of directors, the representatives, did not have the authority probably to appoint these people or elect them originally, but if they can now get each of the representative cities to sign that they ratify the members that have already been appointed or elected, then that will clarify their positions and put them in a more legal position than what they are now. Now, I don't see anything wrong with doing
Need a motion from any council member to approve the ratification of the resolution? Or approve the resolution?
All of these members are either administrative officials or elected officials of contributing member pool members. So these would be, Ainsworth obviously also has the opportunity to run for the board of directors, should I or any of you, care to ever do that.
Yeah. I move to approve resolution number 19-11.
First by Skylar, second.
I'll second.
Second by Brad. Roll call.
Greg?
Aye.
Brad?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Skylar?
Aye.
All right, item D, consider the Citizen Advisory Review Committee's recommended amendments to the Economic Development Program Policy and Procedure Manual.
Okay, I see I have a few members of the Citizen Advisory Review Committee back there. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we're here.
Um,
Did you guys all have a copy? I assume. We worked, 60 days anyway, on this, day and night, every day. And, we've sent it to Mr. Edgar. Mr. Edgar did not have time to look at it, so one of his associates, Mr. Hoising, looked at it. And he sent it back to us with some recommendations and some comments. And yesterday, our committee met with Lisa. Was that yesterday?
That was
With Lisa and Kristen, and we made the recommended changes and things we felt needed to be on this manual. And then Lisa typed it all up and sent it to you guys. I've heard from a couple of council members that there's a few questions to some of the wording. I think, and I thought we changed it, but in several places in this document, it refers to city attorney or city approved attorney. I guess I was under this understanding that we were gonna just make it all say city approved attorney. And, if that's something I think we can agree to fix or do nothing with, it's up to you guys.
It's on page 15, Lisa, the one that we're questioning.
I think Greg pointed out one on page 10.
Page
as well.
10, there's like 3 places
Yeah,
that have
there's
both.
several.
Oh,
Right.
that's, yeah, page 10, I can't read.
Yeah. For consistency.
Yep, take them out.
Yeah.
And then there's another question on page 18, 4.2 under administration. It talks about this, it says the city administrator / clerk / treasurer shall provide administration of the LBA 40 fund. You know, discussing this with a couple of council members, maybe just, instead of administrator, clerk, treasurer, maybe it should just say the program administrator shall provide administration. Just in case, you know, there's ever a change in employees working for the city in their position or whatever. So it's always program administrator, not necessarily the clerk or the treasurer. Other than that, I haven't. The city attorney,
10
right.
and 15 both have
Right.
been changed.
Yeah, I think there's several places where it says city attorney or city approved attorney. I think either one will work, however you want to do it. Lisa and Kristen, unless you guys object to any of that. Like I said, Mr. Adam Hoising looked this over and gave us some recommendations, so I think I've heard somebody tell me when we first started working on this a year ago, there's not very many attorneys can read a law and interpret it the same way. I think it's all interpretation of the law, so this Hoising does not fully agree with Edgar on some parts of it, but that's neither here nor there. So we can sure change that wording if you guys want to do something like that.
I think if you use the council approved attorney, that covers city attorney as well as if Ron wasn't here,
Agreed.
you know, that would be, and the same with the administrator, you know,
Program administrator.
Yeah. I think you guys have done it.
And the only comment that I had regarding that on page 18, and I talked to a few members of council maybe about this, but I think, you know, the reason we did that way is because that was the recommendation of Edgar that, you know, staff could change.
Right.
You know, and so whoever is sitting in that seat at the city needs to be the program administrator. So given that's the administration section, it's just defining who is the program administrator. So, I mean, that's just, I suppose it's neither here nor there how exactly that's worded. But I think that was the point of that paragraph, was to define who fills that role.
So do we need to define who fills that role in this, or do we just need to say that the program administrator shall provide administration?
Throughout your document, you have plan administrator throughout the entire thing. And then here you have city administrator, clerk. To me, for consistency purposes, it would be plan administrator, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Same way back to your attorney. If you guys have
Right.
approved attorney in most places, it should be the city approved attorney,
I agree.
all the way through. And that way we're consistent in the procedures. And again, if something changes, it changes.
I agree. So, I mean, we can make those changes. If you guys want to approve it or not approve it, it's with the changes, we talked about here, however you want to do it.
Ron, you had something? Well, I got a couple of comments on it. I just got this late this afternoon, but when we were originally having trouble with these loans and trying to get them closed, Jim Arns and I came up with a loan closing checklist to help everybody, you know, gather the information that they needed to protect the city on closing these loans. And that is in that's Exhibit B. And I noticed that, and Greg and John, having been bankers, probably would agree that this checklist, where it's a corporation, S Corp, or a C Corp, or a limited liability company, they probably would want or require a certificate in good standing before they would close for that company. Make sure you got a certificate from the Secretary of State. And I don't see that in here in this list for those entities. And normally that would be required. The other thing that I thought maybe being just an oversight omission, under limited partnerships, everything else has to provide a balance sheet. But limited partnerships, for some reason, don't have to provide a balance sheet. And I would think that you would want to see a balance sheet for the limited partnership, just as you would for the limited liability company or general partnership or a C Corp or whatever. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Anyway, those two things is what I saw on the checklist. I have one other comment, and this is on page 11 of the Policies and Procedures Manual, and it's under loan default, paragraph 3.6. And it apparently tries to define who will determine what should be done when there is a default of a payment on a loan from the city to an applicant. And the way it's worded now is composed of the approved attorney, city clerk, mayor, economic development director, and chairman of the loan committee, chairman of the citizens advisory committee, and the president of the city council. Well, that's a pretty cumbersome group, and I'm thinking that for efficiency and for one other reason, and that is I don't know that the city can delegate their responsibilities to this committee to determine when a loan is, what to do if a loan is in default. I think the city has to decide what they want to do, and it should be up probably to the mayor and city council.
Well, we discussed that, Rod, yesterday. And that was one of the recommendations this Koizing made, was take the loan committee clear out of it. He thought this CART committee should do it all.
Which committee?
This
CARC.
CARC.
Well, I think it might be an unlawful delegation of their authority, and I think it has to be the city that determines what to do if they are owed money and it's in default and they're in violation of their contract. It looks like to me it'd be the city that determines what to do about that default, not a group of assigned people that have no interest in the money, basically, other than they're being jolly good fellows to spend their time for not getting paid on these committees.
As I mentioned,
That was,
3 different attorneys, 3 different opinions.
But I don't
And this-
know, that makes sense to me, but
this is Rick's assistant, correct? Or is it-
Associate.
Or partner, okay, okay.
Adam Hessing, this is partner.
and I didn't talk to him or anything about that, probably should have. And maybe he has some good reason for making that recommendation, I don't know.
And just in my conversations with them, I guess, it was my understanding that one of the reasons maybe they thought that was the CARC's responsibility was because their job statutorily is oversight. And so if a loan is in default or a grant is in default, the terms have not been met, that is an oversight concern. And I think that might have been the angle.
That
it
committee was never on that
coming
list until
from.
yesterday,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
per his recommendation.
The committee discussed that quite a bit yesterday, and I think the committee kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but seemed to concur that it should be more the city people that were involved, the loan committee, the people that actually knew the terms and conditions that were granted, had some control over the funds that were being
Right.
collected or
Correct.
expended. And so that's, I guess, kind of why the concoction of the committee came to be.
I always like to carry things to the illogical extreme to test it.
Well,
And say you've got somebody that's in default and you need to collect that loan. And this committee says, no, we're not gonna. He's a jolly good fellow. I know him all my life. I think he'll make the payments. Let's not do it. And then what's the city's repercussion? What can the city do to collect the money that's owed?
Well,
Does each individual have a vote in that, Rod, of those
Right.
individuals on that group?
Well,
It's
the
because you have
city-
more city control there, I would believe.
City approved attorney, city clerk, mayor, economic development director, chairperson of the loan committee. I mean, the CART committee is one member.
I
So,
think this committee is also the same committee that's consistent with your CDBG revolving loan fund committee for defaults. The only difference is you added the review committee as the chair. That was the one member that's different. So I know you were involved in that process as well. We've had a default situation, so it would be the same committee and it would be consistent between those two programs. And then that committee made that recommendation back to the council. And I believe actually, Rod, you drafted all of those letters.
I see on this list, of this list of those people that we just mentioned, there's 4 of them sitting up here right now.
Yeah.
So that there is a majority of the governing body of the city on that list. If there's any protection of, at that time, they can protect the city right there.
And I guess too.
It's a question that I don't know, whether the city can delegate their responsibilities to people other than themselves to make a decision on behalf of the city.
well, the absolute only reason we put that on there was recommendation of having a housing. So,
And I think if you're paying for a recommendation, you might as well take it.
well, we've
Because
always
like I
considered
say,
it anyway.
3 different lawyers, 3 different opinions. We're paying good money, let's take his recommendation.
There you go.
If in a default situation, I mean, again, I guess let's take it to your worst case scenario, in a default situation, which attorney is going to be the attorney that ends up being the one that has to defend the case for the city? It would also be the attorney that's on that committee, correct? And, I mean, he would be making, or he or she, I guess I should say, would be making that recommendation as well, you would hope, to that committee that would involve the city, the review committee, the loan committee. So, I mean, ultimately, if you have to defend that loan, it's going to fall back to that attorney to make a recommendation at that time, I would hope to the committee.
For the collection.
This city-appointed attorney, do we have one of those now, or is that something we're gonna have to go out and solicit? Do we have a city-appointed attorney at this point?
The current standing appointment is Avery Guernsey.
Okay.
It's just says city approved, though, it doesn't say city appointed.
I believe we actually is appointed. I guess I'd have to go back and look at the minutes to see how that was worded, but that's probably neither here nor there, really. So Rod, I guess are you suggesting that if the city council adopts this as written, that we might be statutorily out of compliance?
And if you really look at this, this, it says that these people are the one that write the 10-day letter. 10-day letter. In 10 days.
The letter's gonna be sent by the city clerk,
City, right.
the demand letter, and then from there, if the payment's not made within that 10 days, then the committee goes from there to resolve
Determine
the
the appropriate
default.
action.
Correct. That's still up to the city clerk as in the past.
And that committee, can that committee say, okay, I'm gonna turn it over to the city council and let them take it from here?
Well, we're probably gonna turn it over to the approved attorney, and they're gonna make a recommendation of how to collect the money. However that would go.
Could they, though? Could they?
Absolutely.
Ultimately, I think the council has the final say in it anyway, no matter what this,
Whether
What this committee decides.
whether the council wants to go after it or not.
yeah.
So after, by leaving that alone.
They may not have
leave it
much
alone.
authority other than, it says they will determine the action, though. That bothers me a little bit, that they're determining the action for the city. And I think it should be the city council that determines it.
So would you rather it say recommend appropriate action instead of determine?
That's why I
Gotta be
say,
fine with the council, got boards for everything else, I don't know why they couldn't recommend to council anyhow for that.
and it may end up in the same way, like Brad says, it probably in the long run, will be the city council.
I don't think it would be hard to change that word.
Change determined to recommend.
Yep.
Right.
That's fine.
Is that
that's okay.
something you'd be
That
comfortable
would,
with?
that would solve it all right there. They would recommend to the city.
Recommend action, appropriate action.
That also needs to be changed
Yeah,
from
determine.
On the other-
grant.
on the other side.
Yeah, the
Okay, so
grant's
just
the
so
same
that everybody's aware, we have some duplicate language between loan and grant. So there is also a 3.6 on page 16 is what I've got, where that language is exactly the same. Project default on
Right.
a
right there.
3.6.
grant. So we would probably also need to change the agenda to recommend in that place as well.
That 3.6, is that what you're talking about?
Page 16.
Yeah. 3.6,
Yes.
yeah. It's similarly worded.
Do we need to make, decide on the going with city attorney or city approved attorney then? And then city administrator, clerk, treasurer to program administrator?
Yes.
And then the loan grant, you want to use loan or, I mean, okay.
Instead of determined.
So it's recommended. So do we decide what we want to use then for city approved attorney or city attorney?
City approved.
City approved? You already got all that, Chris?
Yes.
Oh, then I'll just,
And then on page 21 on number D, I think you need the word with. Will work the program administrator and clerk to develop. I think you need the word with in there.
What page are they?
Page 21D.
4.5.5.
Will work the program administrator instead of will work the program administrator. Might be interesting, I don't know.
Where at, Kathy?
Work with.
Page 21 under 4.5.5, letter D.
That's actually
Somebody just
the rest
omitted
of
a word.
page 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just add with in there.
Yes.
Yep. And then it should be good to go.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Citizens Advisory Review Committee recommendations with those amendments to the Economic Development Program Policy and Procedure Manual.
I'll second it.
Oh,
What did you want to do with that checklist? Do you want to amend that checklist with Ron's?
oh, yes.
That checklist.
Yes, sorry.
You needed to add.
Yeah.
That checklist needs to be included in there? The one that.
And the recommendations from the city attorney on the checklist also.
The certificate of good standing and
Financial statement for LLC. I think them are the only two things we care about.
On the checklist, there were three things I thought you needed: a certificate of good standing
Right.
for the S corps, the C corps, and the limited liability companies from the Secretary of State, and then a balance sheet on the limited partnership. All the rest of them have balance sheets, but that one doesn't seem to have a balance sheet. I think it's just a motion.
Good.
Got it.
Good. Thank you. And can we get a roll call? We got the first by Greg, second by Brad.
Greg.
Aye.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
Skylar.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to go home?
If there were any more comments or concerns about the 402 bar, we'll go ahead and close that hearing at 6:20 or 18:20. All right. And somebody want to make a motion to approve or?
I'll make a motion. Okay,
Go ahead.
Brad, go.
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for 1700 Venture LLC doing business as 402 Bar, located at 339 North Main Street for a Class 1 liquor license.
Second?
Second.
Second by Dale. I'll second it. Good job.
I got second and Greg.
Okay, second. Roll call.
Brad.
Yes.
Deb.
Yes.
Skylar.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
So you need a key to the.
I get a key to that door.
Thank you.
Now, Jeremiah, as the mayor, you appreciate the LLC name, right? You get the 1700 reference there?
Oh, yeah, there you go,
Right?
5 o'clock. It's good.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Military guy. you
Sure,
figured that one out.
all our military members will appreciate that one, as long as you got a military night down there too.
Mayor's discount.
Yeah, there you go.
You'll send that out to me.
I will, yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
She got to see what we deal with there.
Yeah, see ya.
Item E, discuss and consider the letter of investigative findings and recommendations by the Nebraska Auditor of Public Accounts regarding the February 13th, 2019 City Council directed investigation of potential misuse of public funds by NCDC. Okay.
Okay, so enclosed in the packet is a copy of the letter that was provided by the Nebraska Auditor of Public Accounts. The Nebraska Auditor of Public Accounts did make a recommendation on their findings. It's on the bottom of page 5 to the City Council. I have spoken with Simmons, Erskine, Olson Law Firm, Rick Ediger, regarding this matter. Given that the city had initially hired Rick for his third-party advice on this issue, and of course subsequently we know that he came at the November 2018 council meeting with a list of recommendations for the city to improve upon. The city subsequently, of course, enacted, I think, all, or at least almost all of Rick's recommendations for the program. And so, in talking then with Rick regarding the Auditor of Public Accounts findings, that the $35,015 that was paid out of workforce development to Compass Roofing, and then was subsequently repaid to the workforce development account in January prior to its closing and the return of the LBA 40 fund. The $35,000 was essentially city demo funds, is what we paid that. So in talking with Greg Ediger, in regard to a recommendation to the city council, of course, the Auditor of Public Accounts has made such recommendation for the city to take action to recover the full amount of the public funds entrusted to the NCDC. He subsequently, to me, made a recommendation as well that because of this sort of misappropriation and some various other things, that he would recommend to the city that the city terminate the agreement with the NCDC at the end of the current agreement year. He suggested that that could be tempered with a qualification that that termination would be subject to NCDC. Well, his word was cleaning house, but essentially, I guess I would read that to be making some adjustments to ensure accountability. But nonetheless, at the very minimum, to take action to recover the full amount of the funds entrusted as recommended by the auditor of public accounts. Rod, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I don't know, I guess the state auditor has confirmed what Dana Cole had suspected, and the city had suspected, that these funds were not paid by NCDC funds, they were paid by city funds back in the city. And that the state auditor's letter made it quite clear that there was a number of transactions and transfers that appeared to be a smoke and mirrors attempt to disguise where that money came from. They saw through it and followed the funds and made the finding that it came from city funds to pay back city funds. The recommendation that they make to recover the full amount of public funds appears to be more than just the $35,015. If there are other funds that they're holding, I think he's suggesting that they get all of the public funds back from the NCDC that they have. You know, this is really important that we have complete transparency here for the people, because we're dealing in taxpayers' funds. You know, I think that Rick Ediger's advice is sound advice, and whether you want to follow it or not, I guess that's up to the city council. I do think it would be a dereliction of the council's duties and the city administration if they did not proceed to collect the funds in full that have been wrongfully transferred. And as far as terminating the NCDC contract, I think that would depend upon the action of the NCDC in the future. I mean, it looks like to me that there has been time to pay that back, and that hasn't happened, but I do know that this was referred to the county attorney in talking with the county attorney, Andy Taylor. He indicated that he was going to recuse himself because his wife had received funds from him and professional recruitment, and so he had a conflict of interest. He made a recommendation to the district court, to the district judge, to appoint a special prosecutor to proceed with the criminal investigation and possible prosecution. And that has been done as of this morning. I was told by the county attorney that Avery Guernsey had been appointed by the district court. I'm sure that the district court at the time did not know that Avery Guernsey had been employed by the city to close these loan closings, so he's got an obvious conflict, and so he'll probably have to decline that, and the district court will probably appoint a new special prosecutor to proceed with any criminal charges. So I think that's where we are, and that's all I know about.
Any questions, comments from city or audience?
I guess I don't understand. What do you think is still missing?
In the breakdown there, I don't know if you have that.
Well, I guess we can walk through it. I didn't walk through it, so. So the Auditor of Public Accounts letter is on the Nebraska Auditor's website. It is a public record, a public document. It can be accessed there by anyone who for us to access it. Their report basically walks through, of course, the beginning of this this subject, you know, starting back from the City of Ainsworth's fiscal audit, where Dana and Cole had identified some weaknesses in the program. Of course, that led to several overtures of dialogue between the City of Ainsworth, Dana and Cole, and the NCDC to collect information on whether or not the city could dictate that the funds that were granted were actually used for the purposes that they were directed to be used for. So that's...
It's through here. Well, it'll break it down right here.
So that's the history. I'm assuming, I think everybody in this room has been to several meetings, so I think we all know what the history is there. So specifically in the request of those bank statements, in May of 2018, it was discovered that the NCDC wire transferred $35,000 from the workforce development, I'm specifically reading from page 3, from the Workforce Development Bank account to Arns Roofing LLC, a company in Grand Island, Nebraska. The funds were used to defray the cost of repairing the roof of a movie theater in Ainsworth, Nebraska. That transaction included a $15 wire transfer fee, bringing its total amount to $35,015. The actual bank transaction is displayed in the letter below, showing that expenditure. At the time of the payment to Arns Roofing, NCDC didn't have enough money in the theater account or in their operating account to make that expenditure, to make that repair to the roof. And so subsequently that was presumably explained by NCDC board members as to why that $35,000 was then taken from the workforce development account, if you will, you know, to pay that, to make that repair. That was discussed at the city council level, I believe, in February of 2019. Those minutes are attached in the council packet for your reference, where there was a motion made by the city council to ask the Brown County Sheriff's Office to investigate whether there was a potential misuse of that transaction of LB 840 funds. BCSO subsequently made that referral to the Nebraska State Patrol. Nebraska State Patrol in turn referred it to the Nebraska Auditor and Public Accounts Office for further review and audit, in which case the Nebraska Public Auditor's Office issued subpoenas for further bank records. In those subpoenas, continuing on page 4 and 5. It itemizes out the various transactions, funds coming from city, funds coming from other sources, and essentially traces the money from the $35,000 expenditure all the way to the closing of the LB 840 accounts, the return of the funds to the city of Ainsworth, and then there was one account, I think it was entitled Housing Demo. The city had an arrangement with the NCDC office to a fairly long-standing arrangement where annually the city of Ainsworth would provide to the NCDC $50,000. 25% of that $50,000 would come from LB 840 funds. 25% of that would come from ABC, which is also sales tax funds. 50% would come from city general property taxes. The city had made those commitments, and so NCDC had an account where those funds were all commingled into one account. So when the city council requested that the NCDC return LB 840 funds back to the city, it was agreed upon between the city and the NCDC that 25% of that balance would be returned. So, you know, as a part of the audit of those financial statements, you can very clearly see the check coming from Housing Demo to the city for that $24,000 and change. And the remaining balance being, I think, 78,000 and change.
72.
$72,987.84. Was also in two different checks written out of that account to zero out that account to close it. Those two checks were deposited into the NCDC operating account on January 11th. And a check was written that same day out of the operating account for $35,010 to the theater account. The theater account wrote a check the same day for $35,010 or $15 back to workforce development, and then a check was cut from workforce development for $60,000 and change back to the city to close out that LB 840 workforce development account. Essentially, at the time that those deposits were made into the operating account, I believe this report shows there was only about $7,000 in the operating account at the time. So the check to the theater for $35,000 would not have been covered had it not been for the housing demo account deposit. Subsequently, the report also displays that the theater account had a balance of roughly $5,000 at the time the $35,000 check was written. Therefore, that deposit into the theater account from operating was necessary to cover the check from the theater back to the workforce development account. So what you're seeing here is just money being moved between accounts. So, you know, the original transaction that was being investigated was that there was a claim that there was a misuse of LB 840 funds, that it was inappropriately used, should have been workforce development, was used for roof repair, and essentially the transaction ended with a repayment by other earmarked funds.
I get that, but I guess I don't see where when they thought it was all flash, like we're trying to be deceptive about this. To me, where all these transactions are made the same day, it's clearly going to where so you can actually follow the paper trail. So to me, that's not trying to hide something. That's trying to point out what happened just so you can follow it. But regardless, whatever.
Brought back to your comments, in the hands of basically Brown County.
Well,
Right
that's
now,
the-
we're waiting to see what the results are.
Yeah, that's the criminal side of this, and then the other side is the civil, the collection of the actual funds. And so that would be in the hands of the city council. So how are you gonna go about that?
Which would mean a vote or not to vote for the move all available funds back to the city. A motion from the city council to move those funds back to the city that haven't been received by the city yet. Or not.
So to clarify, you're talking about the housing demolition funds that would have been general funds and ABC funds. You guys were in the last meeting when we went through accounts. There's 73,000 and change sitting in that housing demo account, so, you know,
And like
if you want it, you can have it.
well, this is the thing, I want to keep everybody on task.
That's fine.
This is,
That's all I'm saying.
I don't want this to be a contest between two entities. This is a state auditor that found this stuff. And it's not the city council that found this, it's not the city administration. It's not NCDC's fault. I know this has been a long fight between everybody. Everybody was involved in this, you know. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I want to move on as much as the community wants to move on with this and move these funds and get them out there and going. That's a big deal.
Question, I heard earlier you guys said that the 25% went back to LB 40. The other monies were left in the demo account, is that correct?
Yep.
And basically that was agreement between the city and the NCDC at that time, is that correct?
Yeah, that was when, it was a meeting, I think, that Cody and Lindy attended probably, if I remember right. And that might have been one of my first ones on
January 19th.
the NCDC board when
So those
more of
monies
those
are
monies were
still
prorated.
there.
Some of those were spent obviously on demo projects and things, so.
Right.
Of the total that remained, where 25% had come from LB 840, that was, and it was a discussion on how do you it was 25% of the remaining funds in that account were deemed then to still be LB 840, so to get those back to the city, that's how that worked. The remaining funds, obviously, as accounts were closed and moved around, but I'll tell you, Jeremiah and Lisa were at the meeting when we went through what we have remaining in accounts. There's 73, and I suppose with interest and change in that housing account. So you're more than welcome to it if you want it, but that's your call. I'm done talking about it. I think we've rehashed and rehashed it again. The state auditor didn't say, hey, where's your, they didn't come to our board or say, where's, hey, can you count for this money? It's sitting right there in an account, I think, at West Plains Bank if you want it. Our next meeting, we can certainly vote to turn it back over. If that's what the council wants, those are ABC and general funds that are still in that account, so
And this is coming from recommendation, not from the city
No,
council. This is coming, this is coming from attorneys and
if it's
whatnot.
cleaner to give you all that money back and start over, and then if this council wants to decide to work with the NCDC on a housing project, so be it, you can make another decision, but if you want, if you think it's cleaner, or the council thinks it's cleaner to recall those funds that are in an account, you can have it checked as soon as we can make a motion to do it, I would imagine. Now, I'm only speaking as one board member, but if you want those monies, they're there, you can have them. So, but the insinuations that money has disappeared and things like that, I think those of us that volunteer for that committee take great offense to that. It's a group of volunteers that work to make the community better. And I think from all the past discussions, you understand, or at least you see why things were done the way they were done. But obviously, if you go back in time, would they have done something different? I think the answer is resoundingly yes. Will that be taken into account for you? But honest, it doesn't matter to me if the city council deems it wants that housing account closed and returned, then you can decide what to do. I mean, that'll be a case where 50% of the remaining will be from general monies and 25% of the remaining would be from the ABC funds into that. And I don't know the exact numbers. The last meeting we had, it was, like I said, we showed to Lisa and Jeremiah, it was 73,000, and I don't even think 100 is right there.
Full amount of public funds entrusted to NCDC.
That's it.
So that'd be more than just housing, that'd be the general fund money as well. And
That was the 73.
But that's all I'm gonna say. I think we've talked about it enough. You guys can proceed if you want to. We'll act as a board, but to insinuate that there's money missing somewhere from a group of volunteers that go out of their way to make it better, that's what we take offense to, so.
And just to clarify, it's not an insinuation, it is an audited fact. I mean,
If you want to insinuate that money's missing,
I'm not suggesting that money's missing. What I stated was what the auditor does suggest.
it's not, nothing's
Okay,
personal.
I got a
It's
couple questions and before we go that way. Who from the NCDC was contacted by the Nebraska auditors? Who?
No idea.
To our
Who gave
knowledge,
the
no
information on behalf of the NCDC to the state auditors?
I have no idea. I can tell you as one board member, it wasn't me, I wasn't contacted. Our board didn't have any action on it as far as how to
Okay.
respond.
Another
It wasn't a
question.
board decision.
Another question I have. On the back here, it says, draft copies of this letter be furnished to the city to provide both entities with an opportunity to review and respond to comment and recommendations contained herein. Did you guys have that to make any comments or recommendations?
Not as a board.
Did the city?
Well, as I explained to you yesterday, Greg, I was under the impression when I got the draft letter, it said that all of these entities would be copied. So I was under the impression that the auditor themselves had supplied that to you. I didn't know that until yesterday.
Sure, but my question is, were we given an opportunity to respond? Was NCDC given an opportunity to respond? Because this was received on October 10th, correct?
I received an email from Craig Kubitschek at the Auditor of Public Accounts. I subsequently shared that with Rod and Jeremiah. Rod gave his comments, and those were relayed back to the state auditors. Some of the comments were minor, spelling and grammatical errors, guess in terms of content, I can tell you the city did not comment back on the content. It's-
Right, but again, when we got on October 10th, we're looking at 30 days later, did anybody respond back, or did the Nebraska auditors then take that into consideration? I guess that's my question. Again, I'm just trying to clarify in the letter what's for sure.
If they sent a letter to NCDC, it would have been received by NCDC director, correct? Not the board, I assume.
I have no idea.
Or if it's just the mailing address of NCDC. If it was sent,
Right.
like they said it was sent.
I was gonna say, I know that the Brown County Sheriff and the Brown County Attorney did receive their carbon copies.
In the mail.
Kristen, are you here under NCDC, or are you just here, like, are you, can I ask you a question as director of NCDC, or, okay. Have you received any letters regarding this?
I received an email from Lisa that was addressed to the Citizens Advisory Review Committee, and I was carbon copy, so thankfully I had received that. That was the first time that I received any communication. So had we not have received that email from Lisa, no, we would not have, I would not personally have received anything.
And I don't know, I mean, I'm aware that the state patrol was engaged in some subpoenas, but I believe that that communication was directly with them. I don't know if either of the directors were contacted.
Is there any other questions or comments or concerns or anything about this topic? Does anybody want to make a motion or not to make a motion about what's going on?
I move that we go ahead with the recommendation to recover the full amount of public funds trusted to NCDC.
First by Skylar. Is there a second? None?
I know they put a recommendation, it'd be a shame not to listen to them, but that's my opinion, I guess.
The way I feel, I am kind of lost here, so I don't know which way to go. When we first started this, we was going, saying that they still owe $35,000. And so if they still owe $35,000, yes, I think we should get $35,000 back. But where these other funds that they're saying that are owed to us, that's where I get really lost and hard for me to make a decision on any money above and beyond that, I guess $35,015.
So it says, well, in the letter right before the recommendation, it says, without such procedures, there's an increased risk for the inappropriate and even unlawful use of city funds. So as far as I'm concerned, anything that's been, the NCDC has that is earmarked for a specific purpose or, you know.
If I go back to that agreement where the city and the NCDC had that agreement of those other funds, and we didn't ask for them when we asked for all the LB 840 monies back at that time, because we figured that, that 25% is theirs, so they should still be able to keep that. So that's where I'm held up on.
The first part was just because the transcriptions were just in the LB 840 program. Like, we didn't see anything in any of the other funds we give them because it wasn't audited. So that's why it was just delegated to the LB 840 fund.
Because right now, I can't feel comfortable going after any more than what, the $35,015. But I guess I would also, I don't think it's fair
that if somebody's getting accused of something, that they don't have the opportunity to rebuttal and tell their side of the story to what's going on here.
But right back to your comment, this will continue on to whoever's appointed to pursue this, correct?
Well,
They'll have their day.
civil.
What's that, Rod?
They'll have their day.
The person that's responsible,
Person or person.
person or persons, if there is such.
Right. But that's criminal, you said that's criminal.
That has
That's
nothing to do
not-
with city council.
That has nothing to do with
Right,
this.
right.
This is strictly trying to reimburse the city for whatever funds the city had coming.
So, okay, I guess from a legal standpoint, if we do not recover the full amount of public funds entrusted to NCDC as the recommendation, and it is found out in the future that NCDC has, again, misused funds, or something to that effect, could it fall back on us for having disregarded this recommendation?
I think so.
Because at the end of the day, the city council's role is to oversee and protect city funds and assets. I guess as a city treasurer, that's why I consulted Mr. Edinger to ensure that we, or I guess presumably that my public duty and obligation when he goes to the city council accordingly. So he is recommending the adoption of the state auditor's recommendation.
Who was that?
Mr. Edinger.
You know, I don't know what the repercussion would be if you don't follow the recommendation of the state auditor, I guess. I mean, there may be another shoe to drop there, I don't know. Of course, you're always subject to a taxpayer's lawsuit for not collecting city funds, but I don't know what the state would do. They may do something too, I don't know. It's pretty clear what their recommendation is.
As city attorney, Rod, do you have any recommendations regarding this?
What?
As city attorney, do you have any recommendations regarding this?
Well, my best recommendation would be to follow the recommendation of the state auditor. The state auditor is making this directly to the city. And you don't want to follow what the state auditor says. There are repercussions for that, I can tell you that.
It's just too bad that the other party didn't get their chance to tell their side of the story rather than just getting it from one side.
Could we, maybe,
Let's move forward here. Again, if that's the recommendation, it's one check, let's move on. So, make your motion again.
I move we follow the recommendation of the city attorney, Edinger, and the state auditor to recover the full amount of public funds entrusted to NCDC.
Second?
In that amount, is that the 72,000, is that what we're talking about here? That's the question I have. Full amount? Because is that not what we're discussing right now? Am I
I thought we were
confused?
discussing the 3515,
That's Brown County's handling that, correct? Is that right, Rod?
No,
they're not handling any money, no.
they're
No,
not
no,
handling
no.
the money, they're handling.
Not handling the money,
No,
proceeding forward with that portion, so we turned that over
I-
to Brown County Sheriff's Department.
My personal perception, and again, just my observation, the way that I read this letter, whether it's right or wrong, would be that what they're saying is the 35,015 needs to be recovered for sure, but when they say full amount of public funds, that in my mind would include the 72,974. As well.
So back to you.
So, you want me to state that?
no, next part.
that, Lisa, the 72?
Sorry, I believe I misstated, because it looks like there's probably interest, 72,997.68.
Okay. Okay, so I move that we follow recommendation of the state auditor to recover public and trusted funds to NCDC of the $35,015 from before, as well as the $72,997.68.
It's a total of the 72.9, not an addition. If you want your house, if you want the rest of the housing funds, it's a total of 72.9 something is what we're talking about. That's what we've got in the account. That's your motion. We can get that back.
Okay.
That's what you're missing. That's correct.
That is
Well,
not-
no, technically no. I mean, the 35,015, had it not been paid out of housing general, you would have 72,990, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong.
72.
Circling in my mind, 72,997.68 would be the balance of what would have been spent in the 2 checks to close out the demo account that were deposited into the operating account, which the 35,000 came out of. So if you pay the 35,000 back now, it would be in addition to the 72.
The total amount is the 72. So, anyway.
Does the council have a copy of the letter that was provided that would show all of the LD 840 funds that had been returned to the city and the balances of each of those funds? And if so, is that available this evening?
You want to know that, yeah, no, that's not true. You and I looked at that yesterday. You're talking about what NCDC returned to the city.
All the money returned from the LD.
Yeah, those.
That 35,000 you're talking about, that you're questioning, or that the auditor's questioning, that was returned.
Right.
You're questioning that it was returned from a housing fund. So
Correct.
what the auditor or whoever is questioning is that 35,000 is missing from what would have been a $72,900 something account. So if the auditor is questioning that that's what's missing, that money would be missing from a housing account that would be short 35,000 from a 72,900 something balance. I can tell you now, there's 73,000 and some odd change in that account.
Well, the mere fact that you only have 72 or 73,000 doesn't account for the 35 that was already paid out. So actually, it looks like to me you would owe the 35,000 because you've already paid that out, plus the 72 that's still in your possession.
That's incorrect.
Isn't that right?
Go back to this, Rod, if we go back to page 5.
I'm done talking about it. You guys, we'll see if you guys, well, I'm done
If we go back to
talking
page 5, wasn't that 72,997.68 in this account prior to the debit of the 35? Is that, no, am I not reading that right?
No, that would be correct. 72,997.68 was the balance of the demo for ABC and City Journal that was deposited into the operating account that 35,000 came from.
Okay. So the 35 was repaid by that, so it reduced that account down to 40 something.
Correct.
So then if we take that 40 and that 35, the total's still back to 72, if they return that 72, is that not 100%? The 72,997.68, that's the question I was trying to get this guy on.
Doesn't it say here though, deposit was made to housing to demolition 72,000, and then so that demolition was put in the operating account, but then there's still the 35,000
That was repaid, but then funds have been put back into the demo account to replace that to 72,000, whatever spent, is that correct?
Wouldn't there be a quick way to clarify this? Just ask the auditor. I mean, maybe that's too simple.
How about we get a hold of the auditor and have them explain, let's break this down more so both sides are understanding exactly where and what money is missing and where it came from. Are are you fine with that? And you
I'm
guys-
not saying anymore, you guys can do what you wanna do, we've got $73,000 in city demolition funds that are in an account. That's what I can tell you.
Are you gonna continue with your motion, change your?
Well, I guess, we can get like a specific, we have the numbers right here, so that's why it's.
What is your motion, Skylar?
I rescind my motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion. And we request that the NCDC return $72,997.68 to the city from the demo account,
From 72.9 what?
997.68.
Okay. From the demo account.
First by Craig, is there a second?
Question, does that include the 35,000 or not? Huh?
Is that included in there?
That's already been paid out, so I don't know how it could be included.
Okay, let's look at it this way. We had $72,000 worth in that account, correct, in the general? 35,000 came back to pay that, and we said that was city funds, correct? So
But
there
that
were-
should have been workforce development.
Okay, but again, it only left $40-some thousand, right?
Well, no, but they didn't. take-
Correct. Oh, well,
I don't think they.
It would be, if it came out, that would have been 40, yeah, whatever.
We need a
Okay.
flow chart.
We're talking about 3515,
Got a
right?
chalkboard right there, Greg.
This isn't that difficult, I'm sorry. But anyway, if there was 70-some thousand left in there from 25% was ABC, correct? 50% was from the general, right? 72,997.68. They wrote a check out of there for 35, whatever it was, to put back into workforce, correct?
Correct.
So it took that count down to 40-some thousand dollars. They're saying today they have $73,000 in that account. Somewhere they got additional monies to cover that 35,000. I don't know where or what or how, but that's what we're requesting back. For our full amount would be the 72,997.68, correct?
If that's true, I agree with
Well,
your
that's-
analysis.
Well, again, that's where I'm trying to, that's where I'm coming up with the number. That's why I was asking Skylar for a number from you. So again, that is my motion.
Okay, so that's a first by Greg. Is there a second for 72,997.68
Correct.
to return? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Brad. Roll call.
Deb,
Abstain.
Skylar,
No.
Greg,
Aye?
Brad,
Yes.
I vote aye.
You don't think that?
No? Or no?
I abstain.
Okay. 2-1.
Like I said, just as one NCDC board member, it'll go to our board, but at our next board meeting, my guess is the board will gladly vote to close that account, return that, it's gonna be more than the 72,999 something. Like I said, I think at last meeting we had, it was 73 and some odd change. So that's what'll likely be coming back, but give us till we get our next meeting to make that as a form of a motion would be. Like I said, I think I'm the only NCDC board member here now, so, other than Lisa, but that'd be my, we'll put it on our agenda and address it.
Thank you.
Item F, City Administrator, Clerk, Treasurer's Report.
Okay, so we got Midlands in town right now doing the permanent repair to the water main break that occurred in the September flooding. Down on West 2nd Street, the boring underneath the creek. Continue to work with FEMA, continue working with LBA 40 projects. I see John is here, Franklin County Hospital. We continue to have meetings regarding how we can find equitable solutions for the hospital filter replacement project is in full swing with cement being poured, we have fencing up, we have, the tank is being set, the pool has been painted and recocked. Caulking just has to be painted in the spring. The street shop building project is still in full swing. The cement has been laid. It's my understanding that the contractor does not have the building delivered. I guess I can't say definitively if that is because of the manufacturer or why the delay in the building.
Based on that, I found out today it's supposed to be delivered 21st or 22nd.
Who told you that?
Kevin talked to a contractor.
So the wastewater improvement project also continues. We have advertisement for bids being completed by engineers. I think the hope is that at the December council meeting, Olson's will be able to present those bids to the city council for action. NPPD's solar project also continues. The RFPs have been put out, the deadlines, everything has been determined. They had 5 developers put in on the RFP. I think they have 1. The cost came in at or below the preferred price per kilowatt. So they are working to get some more technical information from the developer. Again, hoping that at the December council meeting that NPPD will be able to present the results of that RFP to you. Highway 20 public meeting was held. Greg was there, Brad was there, Nehemiah. I felt like that was it was a good meeting. It was nice to see the final plan. We had the opportunity to speak with the NDOT representatives again, to explore some of those options that the city council has previously discussed regarding upgrading the lighting, maybe doing some increased safety and awareness with crosswalks. And so my understanding from Carl Humphrey at NDOT is the city will kind of need to have that finalized probably in February back to NDOT if we want to make any adjustments to get in on that bid levy. And of course, J&J, we've been working quite a bit with them throughout the month, getting them information and numbers, and Terry was here tonight. So just a lot of ongoing projects that we're trying to finish up, and I think a lot of them are winding down, hopefully to next month's meeting.
Thanks. Any more questions, comments, concerns from city council or audience?
I have one. This Highway 20 project has been going on for most of the decade so far that we're in. And years ago, one of the city councils talked about all the infrastructure that is underneath Highway 20. And they said, we need to start looking at replacing that, the water, the sewer lines, or at least looking at it to make sure. In the last 2-3 years, I don't remember the city council really discussing it and where the funds are gonna come from to make sure that all the sewer lines and water lines that are underneath Highway 20 are adequate and current. So, granted, there can always be a break, but potentially it could be very costly to replace all that stuff. It hasn't really been addressed, has it?
Well, and under Highway 20, actually, we don't have a lot of infrastructure. It's Highway 7 that we have all of our water and sewer mains. So when we do Highway 7, or when NDOT presumably does Highway 7.
Which is Main Street.
Correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
2023, yes, we're gonna have major costs associated with that. I think in our sewer study, we had a price tag of over $2 million just for the sewer mains, so.
But there's not much underneath
For
Highway 20.
Really, where 20 and 7 intersect. We
Main
have
Street.
some valves there. We did have those cameraed, to look for stability and any potential issues so that while it was uncovered, if it needed to be replaced or repaired, it can be known at that time. And the camera footage, I guess, and that was one of the things we talked about with Mark, Kovar, with NDOT was, how much vibration and know, if it looks good on camera now, but they get in there with all of their ground counters and everything that they do, you know, and we did sort of discuss that, but at this point in time, it appears as though that infrastructure at that intersection is good. It's pretty much everything else on Main Street that's not.
Okay.
And as part of this project too, just as a utility clarification, they are planning to bury all the electrical, so that will be a nice improvement.
One thing also, and I appreciate that email brought on that grant. Where are
Oh,
we at
yeah.
with that $2.2 million grant, because Brown County qualifies, correct? And that is potentially for infrastructure.
Correct. Krista and I have had a conversation about that, and maybe how she, I don't know, you can speak as you're here, but potentially investigating how that can be paired with a paving project by the city, as an action plan or something to that regard.
Because we need to get an application, is it first come, first serve, is that correct?
Typically, USDA funds are first come, first served, yes.
So that we,
The city, as we discussed, I mean, Lisa and I kind of talked about this too, that, you know, things that we need to be able to do something are, number one, a plan as identified, and I know you were working with Lloyd, to try to identify what those items are, and then, of course, the project cost, because those will all be included in those applications. And I do see, they just sent out another reminder today, so they're still looking for applications. So I would encourage the city to be working out what your plan is that you want to include in that application if you choose to move forward.
But you reached out to USDA to
I have.
see if that could be paired with, you know, if that would be an eligible
It
activity.
is an eligible, infrastructure is eligible. Other things, fire trucks, libraries, it's the same fund, it's USDA community facilities. And so it's what we've used for the fire hall. We've used it, the pumper truck was funded with that. The library addition was a project that NCDC had written a grant for. And those have all been CF funds, so.
because we have other issues in the alleys on the street, correct?
Some of the alleys were part of that, yeah.
The original plan included all these and drainage. So it's work.
So that's something hopefully we'll have maybe mid-December, have an application in, or we're gonna be that proactive, you guys think?
I think the city needs to identify what you would like me to apply for. I'm not sure that I can make that determination for the city of what your priorities are or what's important, but yes, I mean, I think that Lisa and I can definitely work together and get an application. The city gives us some direction as to how you want to move forward.
Anything else from council? Audience? Let's call this meeting adjourned at 7:13.
I see what you're saying.